I have a challenge for you today. Listen to this speech from start to finish without getting at least a little bit emotional. I think it's impossible. Let me explain. This is Chris Hadfield, the mustachioed Canadian astronaut who in 2013 became the commander of the International Space Station. And he's got an incredible story. He wrote a best-selling book called An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, which details his personal story as well as offering life advice that he learned from spending over 20 years training to be an astronaut, flying 3 times into space, visiting the International Space Station over 30 times, and even commanding it for 6 months. In this interview with a university, he gives one of the most eye-opening interviews you will ever hear. He talks about his upbringing and how his parents taught him to have what he calls a beginner's mind. He describes what happens when an astronaut pees in space and why he never wanted to return home after his first mission. He shares the most important lesson he learned as an astronaut and discusses the future of humanity. This interview will change your perspective on life, I promise. Let's begin. Let's talk a little bit about you growing up. What was that like? My childhood was pretty awesome, actually. I had 2 very smart and caring parents. They were both teachers, and they had a huge influence on me. One thing that they taught me was something that they learned from one of their own mentors, which is you need to have a beginner's mind. That basically means that no matter how much you know, you always keep in mind that there is more to learn. That you can always do better. Don't ever think that you are too good or too smart or too busy to learn something new. I carry that with me every day. So when did you first become interested in space? It seems like such a daunting field. When I was 5, my parents took me to see the backyard planetarium in the basement of our church. And I remember looking up at the stars and feeling an overwhelming sense of wonder and realizing that everything we do here on Earth is so tiny and so insignificant. And that was a powerful feeling, and I knew right then and there that that's what I wanted to dedicate my life to. You attended Memorial University of Newfoundland. How was that experience? I loved it. I grew up in a small town of 2,000 people, and Memorial was the biggest city I'd ever been to. So going to university was a big step for me, and I absolutely loved it. I made some lifelong friends. I learned how to be independent. I discovered rock music. Yeah, it was pretty cool. After university, you joined the Royal Canadian Air Force. How did that happen? So after I graduated from university, I wasn't sure what I was going to do next, but I knew I wanted to fly airplanes. So I applied to the military as a pilot. And I spent 5 years training to be a fighter pilot. I flew CF-18s and it was amazing. But then I started thinking I want to push myself further. I want to do something that's a little more challenging. So I applied to the astronaut program. Did you face any obstacles becoming an astronaut? Well, the astronaut selection process is incredibly competitive. Only 1% of applicants make it through, so obviously there's a lot of obstacles in the way. But I just kept trying again and again, and eventually I made it. I also had to overcome a significant obstacle once I was selected as an astronaut, because I had to convince my wife that it was okay to leave our comfortable life here on Earth and go live in a cramped spaceship for 6 months. She agreed. We went for it. What was the transition like from being on Earth to living in space? Well, I had trained for it extensively. We simulate microgravity here on Earth as best we can. So I was prepared for it, but nothing prepares you for space. The first time I went to space, I was utterly overwhelmed by the beauty of the Earth. When you're up there and you look down on our planet, it just takes your breath away. I never wanted to come back. I thought I'm just going to stay up here. I don't need to go back to Earth. But my wife said, if you don't come back, I'm leaving. So I had to come back. Have you ever seen anything strange or unexpected while in space? Absolutely. I was on a space shuttle mission, and we were docked at the International Space Station, and we had a spacewalk planned. And during the spacewalk, one of the astronauts dropped his glove, and I reached out and grabbed it before it floated away. And then I looked down, and I realized that I had a hole in my suit. Now, this isn't a big deal normally, but we were in space, so I had to find a way to patch the hole with duct tape. Luckily, I was able to do that, and we were able to finish the spacewalk. Speaking of spacewalks, what do you do when you have to pee in space? Okay, so this is a question that everybody has. And the answer is, we use a funnel and we pee into a bag. There's no toilet in space. Everything's a toilet. So yeah, that's all you need to know. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the most important lesson you learned as an astronaut. The most important thing I learned is that you have to embrace the unknown. As an astronaut, you train for a wide variety of scenarios, but ultimately, you can never be truly prepared for everything that might go wrong, so you have to be comfortable with the unknown. And that's something that I carry with me even to this day. No matter how much planning and preparation you do, there will always be things that are outside of your control. You have to learn to go with the flow and adapt to whatever situation you find yourself in. On that note, let's talk about some of the challenges facing astronauts today and in the future. One of the biggest challenges we face is keeping humans safe as we explore farther and farther into deep space. The farther you go from Earth, the more dangerous it becomes. So we have to develop new technologies and procedures to keep astronauts safe as they explore. Another big challenge is keeping astronauts healthy on long-duration missions. We know that long-duration spaceflight can cause muscle and bone loss, cardiovascular problems, and even vision problems. So we have to find ways to mitigate those risks and keep astronauts healthy on long-duration missions. Okay, so you've spent hundreds of days in space. How does it feel to get back to Earth after so long? Well, it's a real shock to the system. Your muscles and bones start to break down after just a few weeks in space. So when you come back to Earth, you really have to work hard to get them back in shape. And then there's also the psychological adjustment. You go from feeling like you're on top of the world, seeing Earth from a whole new perspective, to being back on Earth where everything seems so much smaller. It's a tough adjustment. But I love it. I mean, coming home is great. I missed my family and friends. But at the same time, I just wanted to stay up there forever. It's amazing up there. What message would you give to your younger self if you could? I would tell my younger self to enjoy every moment and to not worry about the future. I used to worry a lot about the future. I was always thinking, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right path for me? And I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I would tell my younger self to relax, enjoy the journey, and trust that everything will work out the way it's supposed to. In your opinion, what is the future of humanity? I'm optimistic about the future of humanity. I think we're going to continue to push forward. We're going to continue to explore new frontiers. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's what we were meant to do. I think it's in our nature to explore and to discover new things. And I think that's what's going to drive us into the future. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave a like. Until next time, keep looking up.